Mm. Hi, everybody, and welcome to our Art Toolkit demo with Alexis from Case for Making. Alexis, I'm so happy to have you here to share our latest collaboration, this just adorable palette, the Rainglow Palette, which we launched last week and will be available for relaunch later this month. And yeah, it's just the cutest little palette. And I'm so glad to have you here. And those of you joining us live, we'd love to hear where you're calling in from and leave any comments, questions in the chat, and I'll do my best to get to them. But first, Alexis, would you just share a little background about Case for Making and where you're from and how you
Yeah,
came to
definitely.
be a paint maker?
Yeah. So, first of all, thank you so much for having me and super excited about this collaboration. It was one that we had kind of in the works and on the back burner for a while, and you guys were so patient with us while we figured it out, and more on that later. But I'm Alexis, and I started Case for Making 10 years ago. It was actually September 25th when we got our business license. So our tenure, we're kind of in this moment where we're doing a lot of reflecting and planning ahead, and yeah, it feels like a celebratory time for us where we are in our business, and this palette feels like um, a good representation of that for us. And also, the first palette we ever made and sold was a fully fluorescent palette, so in the way it's kind of a nod to our first palette that we ever made. um,
Hmm.
yeah, but we're based in San Francisco. We started as just like a very tiny storefront selling our favorite art materials. I have a background in architecture and graphic design, and realized pretty early on that I wasn't great at having clients because I would consistently try to um, teach them how to do their own design work. And so that I just wanted people to be part of their own own creative process and own that and live in it and express themselves in every way possible. So it feels fitting and feels right to me that I get to be in a space that promotes that where we really feel so excited to talk to people about materials and try to simplify the way that we think about creativity and the materials that we use, and re-engage people with their own curiosity. So
Yeah.
that's a word that use a lot here, and just try to reignite that creative inquiry that kind of flowed so easily when we were all children. Um,
And that's a passion we share, I think, just in
yeah.
that at Art Toolkit, we really believe in trying to make like art supplies accessible and easy to use to get out and play and get to and that idea of art as a tool versus a talent. It's for everyone.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely feel that so strongly, and I think that's why we initially kind of found each other through this and knew we had to do something together. Um, yeah,
Yeah, well, you mentioned we started dreaming up this idea. What was it? Maybe 3 years ago?
I think
Um, two or three?
it was 3 years, maybe I think it was 3 years ago. We got in touch because we wanted to wholesale palettes from you guys and make our own set.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so we got everything, and then pretty quickly realized that we were having a lot of technical issues getting our paints to stay like evenly and dry nicely in the small pans. Because they're so shallow, they tend to crack easier than our larger half pans, which is what we usually make. And so what started with me being like, oh my God, these are the best. Like, we have to make a mini set that we can release for the holidays. And it was October or something. Pretty quickly, we realized there's no way that's going to happen, and we got to chill it out, which is, I tend to have that. Like, I want to just do everything right away, and I get so excited about it
Everything all the time.
all the time and all at once and all the fun things. And so I was like, okay, we have to calm this down. We have to approach this a little bit more slowly and figure out the paints that work best in this format. Um, and then it was the holidays and it was crazy. And then I had a baby, and um, yeah, and I think it was pretty early also that you were like, well, we should make something together. Like, we can wholesale your paint and make a special palette. And then I was like, well, we were having so many technical difficulties. I didn't feel good about making anything for you if we didn't totally nail our production.
Yeah.
So like, well,
Yeah.
I'd rather us be the guinea pig for the first round, and then we'll think of something really perfect to make for you guys. And we did it.
You did it. You
Did it.
persevered. And I just have to say, like, from the very beginning, I remember seeing your stuff, and I wore a little unicorn shirt as because we had this idea of sort of sparkles and like something over the top. Because, for me personally, as a painter, I'm kind of a landscape person, and I gravitate like personally more towards realism and just this idea of something kind of like just like crazy colors and this emphasis on play and joy was just like, wow, that sounds really fun. And the result of like coming up with an idea of something where it's like a really small package
Yeah.
that just can like explode color was really fun. And I just love how it came together.
Yeah, me too. I think like you said that, and I think it also just made sense to me early on that I had seen from you guys a little bit more of an emphasis on earthy tones, and I was like, let's just do something that feels like just super vibrant and look really different from what you guys have offered in the past. Just why not? And we love just bright colors and blending new colors together, and we just wanted to make something super special for you guys.
Well, I wonder if you might swatch out the colors for us if you want to pull up your
Yeah, I'd love
desk and we
to.
can share this a little more.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, I'll switch to top down. And yeah, if there's any questions, oh, just
Oops,
stop the
wrong one. Sorry
video.
about
That
that.
was me. That was me. All right, so here we've got top down. I'm gonna get some paper. Yeah, if there's any specific questions, type them in the chat. I don't have that chat pulled up, but you do, right?
Yep,
And
I'll
you can
keep
read
an
it
eye
out.
on it.
Okay, perfect. This is this sweet swatch card that our toolkit got made for the palette, which is awesome. We love it. Put that there. It's also so fun collaborating with like-minded people. Because I love the way that you laid out the palette. I don't think that I would have thought to do it like that, but it's so perfect.
Yeah, we imagined a little rainbow, and then in the very middle of the rainbow, putting a couple of just like glittery paints. And I have to say, your gold, well, I'll let you get to this color, but it's one of the most vibrant, like sparkly golds I've personally experienced out of a pan so
Yay.
far.
Yeah, well, I told Maria this already, but in classic fashion, we only got 50 of the Rainglow sets for us to sell on our website because this was a special wholesale project for Art Toolkit. And in classic me fashion, I didn't save one for myself because I wanted everybody to be able to get them. So I kind of had to recreate the palette, not in the rainbow set, which is so sad for me. But I have all of the rainbow colors on the outside, and then I have my little Comet Gold and Onyx Black is on the side. So I just wet my brush, and I'm gonna just paint a little rainbow with it kind of in the same order that our toolkit laid it out. So this is a blend of our fluorescent yellow and our fluorescent orange. So in this fun fluorescent set that we wanted to create, it was like a fluorescent inspired set, but everything's a little bit unique or tweaked, kind of based on what we were excited to play around with. So the fluorescent orange yellow is a new color that is only available in this set. I think we have a few of them available online individually that were kind of mess ups or we were trying to figure it out.
And when you say fluorescent, like these actually, we tested them under like a black light. I wish I had one here, but like they glow.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, so the pigment itself is from a company called Kramer Pigments, and it's actually where I learned how to make watercolors back in 2016. So if any of you are based in New York or are visiting anytime soon, we highly recommend a trip to their New York storefront. It's a pretty magic place. They basically have anything you could ever need to create your own art materials from raw
Amazing.
materials that they have. It's a dream, and the people there are so lovely. Have you ever been there, Maria?
I have not, but it is on my list for my
Oh
next trip
my
to New York.
God.
It's been a long time. And speaking of sort of when you began making paints, we've got a question about how you came up with your company name, Case for Making.
Such a good question. After I graduated from grad school at California College of the Arts here in San Francisco, a few friends and I applied for a grant through an arts organization in San Francisco called Southern Exposure. And we got a grant to do a project kind of based in our neighborhood, actually in the storefront space that is now our shop. And so we did a year-long project where we were interviewing people about their personal practices. It wasn't necessarily art, like we interviewed farmers and artists and had a lecture series, and we did this whole project. And at the end of the grant terms, we had to make a booklet, kind of with all of our, like, wrapping up the findings of our grant project. And we named the booklet A Case for Making, because every single person we talked to, like, what everything kind of siphoned back down to is that how important it is for us to make, no matter the medium, whether it's
Mm,
you're working with the earth and seeds and tending plants, like that's all a practice and it's an act of making, just the way that um, painting can be, or writing, or
yeah,
making
yeah.
sculpture. Yeah, so that was a nod to that project that happened also in this building where the shop is now. And it just fits every medium and like our whole purpose for being here as a small business. And
Oh, I love that. I love that. And as you're swatching these, like you mentioned the first one, that new fluorescent orange yellow is just in this palette. And you mentioned too the Kramer paints in New York. Are you then like buying pigment, like the raw pigment, and then blending some together for custom blends, and then you've come up with your own formula for how to like have the binder? I know like gum arabic is one example to help them, I guess, behave well, play nicely.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, we source all of our pigments from various pigment manufacturers, or distributors, and we make our own medium as well as the medium that Kramer Pigment makes. Every paint company kind of has their own unique recipe for not just what goes in their medium, but then also what goes into their paints. Um, we don't add anything else. We just use our medium and the pure pigment, but a lot of other, commercial paint manufacturers will put other fillers and extenders in their paints to make the pigments go farther. Um, some companies alter their medium recipe or put other things in there to make their paints appear really glossy after they dry, or um, stay really wet in the pans. Like, I don't know if some of you have used Sennelier paints. They tend to use
Mm.
a lot of honey in their binder, so their paints stay a lot wetter after they dry in the half pans. So for our paints, we don't use anything. We just have our gum arabic um, medium solution that uses distilled water, gum arabic, glycerin, vegetable glycerin, honey, and a little clove oil, and that's it.
Mm.
So
Oh,
our
and you
paints are really saturated. They're really vibrant, and they're a little bit more matte finish when they dry because there's nothing else in there. It's kind of, I like to think of it as like the purest way to paint with pure pigment. Um,
mm.
like, because the gum arabic is tree sap. It's sap from acacia trees. So the binder, the glue, is really delicately bonded to each of the pigment particles, and it's virtually invisible. So it's just like this little tiny bit of glue that's able to glue each pigment particle to the surface of the paper, which is why watercolor is so magic, and you get like bleeding together, and like things happen that you couldn't really ever plan. Um, and I try to always paint and just let it sit and do its own thing and try not to rework it, which is
Sometimes I wish there was a giant stop sign in my studio or something to be
Yeah.
like, okay, stop. When you think something might be like, let it sit, just let it sit and see what happens with the beauty of watercolor. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and I always find like the areas where I think I've messed up while I've painted it, if I just let it sit and come back and look at it, I'm usually kind of happy and surprised by what happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and oh, and then you had a question about the blends that I didn't really
Oh yeah, yeah, and
respond
kind of
to.
making your own custom blends.
Yeah, so we have 100 colors right now. And
Wow.
that includes pure pigment watercolors that where we just source the pigment and we're making those into straight paints. And then we have a line of custom blended colors where we are mixing 2 to 6 different pigments together to get a custom line of colors that are unique to us. And that ranges, and we do mix a lot of fluorescents into our blends because we love them and they just add this vibrancy that we love here, but we also make a mixed black paint called squid ink that we love that's made from 3 primary colors. So it's like a really rich, warm black. And we also make a mixed brown that actually has 2 reds, 2 yellows, and 2 blues to create this
Mm.
really rich, deep brown.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we have
Oh, and then
a
the
little
two
bit of
colors
all.
left that you didn't quite demonstrate.
Yeah, we didn't do, yeah, I'll do
And
those now.
I could pull up, or you've got them there in our
Yeah.
palette. We've got them in the middle. Alexis, I'm going to send you a little extra tin so you can rebuild your palette. You of all people.
I know, it's so classic. I was like, wait, but I don't have one. I just want everybody to have them if they want it. I'm just gonna do this right in the center.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. So that's this like super shimmery gold.
And
And
then
then
the
what?
onyx black, which during the pandemic, we're all like a little depressed and we're like, we just want to do something fun and kind of different for us. And we're like, should we do a full metallic rainbow palette? So we did a full metallic rainbow palette for a while. And the onyx black we sourced for that palette and we just loved it so much that we're happy to bring it back for this.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, we've just got another question um, from one of our viewers about how some of the paints react to sunlight, and then also
Yeah.
about are there better papers? And I think that's a great question with this palette and part of the emphasis on like play for us. I'll let you speak to that more.
Yeah, totally. So Kramer Pigment, we get all of our fluorescent pigments from Kramer Pigment, and they do all of their own like UV testing. And so they shared with us that if their fluorescent paints or paints that were made from their pigments are in direct sunlight for 30 days, they'll fade by 50%. But we have a tiny storefront on a side of the street that actually does not get any direct sunlight at all. So paintings hanging in our front window that have been up for many, many years, and we've only noticed a very small amount of fading. So definitely if it's like out of direct sunlight, we feel like it's fine for many years. You can get, if you're framing, you can get UV protective glass, and there also are some UV fixative sprays that can help. But we are kind of embracing, like we're very, it's really important to us that we make sure that everybody understands that these are not light fast. And if they're making work that they're selling, to probably not use any of our fluorescent colors, and that they should relay that to the people buying their work if they feel like it's important to them. But we just love them, and I think sometimes it can feel freeing to just be like, yeah, it might fade and it might change over time, and that's okay with me. It's okay with me, but it might not be okay to some other people, which is totally fine. But it's great for sketchbooks. It's great for traveling. I love to make postcards when I'm traveling to send back to my family and friends. Um, and yeah, just playing with color and trying to
Yeah,
let it feel light and fun.
I'll speak to that too of just it's a chance I think playing with these for me, and we'll get into some prompts and some more examples in a minute, but that sense of just like letting go and just I mean, we keep saying play, but this chance just to, not worry about perfection and just to mess around and have a place in like a journal or something to share. And I mean, you can also always photograph things too. And but that is the fluorescence. Are the metallics different, Alexis?
Oh, the metallics are totally light fast. Yeah, they're actually like colorized mica powder, so they're very stable and they'll last
Oh,
forever.
that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a couple other little questions about. And then the follow-up question to that was if you found any better papers to use paints on. And I mean, my rule of thumb typically is like 90 pound or heavier for watercolor, but do you have anything from your experience with Case for Making?
Um, yeah, I usually go 140 pound or heavier. Um, but 90 pound is like I feel like that's fine in like a sketchbook. Um, for me, I do like to
Mhm.
do a lot of layers. So if I'm doing something really large, I really love, I mean, an arch, a 300 pound arches is a beautiful thing to paint on in my experience. I really like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
But for me, it really depends on scale, um, and how many layers I want to do.
And
So, and it's so
um,
personal. It's just like with anything. It's so personal. I think it what might feel nice to me while I'm working and what results I might like after I'm done painting might feel really different to somebody else, which is great.
And we've got a couple other great questions. And while I ask this one, I'll just add my desk because I wanted to just share a couple of the fun mixes that like we've been enjoying with this.
Yeah,
Um, particularly like some of the purples you can mix. But had a question about the clove oil, if that's for antimicrobial properties.
it is. Yeah, the honey does that a little bit, but the clove oil just helps even more um stabilize our medium while we're waiting to use it in paint.
Hmm.
Which
Hmm.
is really cool. And the really amazing thing about the honey, just which feels important to share, because I think the main thing that feels really different about using our paints versus using the paints that we used when we were kids, or I mean other artist grade paint will feel very similar to ours, because they're mainly pure pigments. There's not a lot of other additives. They re-wet quickly. But because we make ours and we know exactly what goes into it, and we've kind of honed in on our medium recipe, the honey plays like a really important role in the active rewetting. So that means like we
Mm.
go from a dry, firm paint here, and I barely have to rub the surface, and my brush has like soaked up so much paint.
Yeah, I love that about these paints too. Yeah.
And it's actually from the honey, which is so like honey and water do just amazing things together. And the other really cool, just fun fact about that is the type of honey, like the tree or the plants that the honey comes from, actually is really important to what the resulting medium, how it feels making it into paint. And the honey that works the best is acacia honey, which is from the same tree that the sap is from. So it's like it's almost like they recognize each other and they're working together to create like a really balanced painting
Wow.
medium. Yeah.
Gosh.
And we've used other honeys and the result is stickier and more like it's almost like the honey is more present if we don't use an acacia honey. But if we use acacia honey, it's like it just kind of mixes into the binder in like a really beautiful, subtle way.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean,
I
I
know,
love
it's
just
really
the whole
cool.
alchemy and kind of science side of this that you've had to
Yeah,
explore. And I
there's
mean, that sounds like it's part of, you mentioned too the time it took to have your paints play nice in our pans, our more shallow hands.
yeah,
That I love that that's another side of your art is diving into that side.
yeah, it's like a surprising part of it. And how much chemistry is involved. And I never actually ended up taking chemistry in high school, but there's a lot of chemistry in this that I don't understand the technicality of it, but it's fine. It's fun to kind of, you know, just the surface of it and try to understand what's happening on a material and physical level as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've got one more question from about paper and um about looking into cotton content of paper too and the impact. And I'll say I think it's a great question. And we do have on our YouTube, on our demos and our demo archive, and we can post a link, a whole demo called Paper Makes a Difference. That was with Hanamula. If you really
Oh,
want to
cool.
take a dive into like hot press, cold press, cotton content versus higher alpha cellulose content. In my own experience, 100% cotton watercolor paper can like absorb the play really nice with like heavier water use. But
Yeah.
I'll share that link.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I got to have a meeting with a rep from Hanamula, and they kind of gave the whole history of their company and did a deep dive on paper making, and it was so fascinating.
Yeah, they are great
It's
folks.
Yeah, they're really cool. And yeah, just the level of like care and detail and science that goes into that is incredible too.
We had a couple other questions, and then I thought we might jump into some prompts. I'm having fun noodling around, and I see you're noodling around too. One question is about replacements. If people use up these paints, um, any ideas of what they can do next? And I'll say one thing is you can always, come back to our website, and if you want to buy more pans or if you want to just fill an empty pan with any paint of your choice. But Alexis, do you ever sell empty pans with our size, or maybe we'll have to
Yeah,
make a little plan?
we do. Yeah, we have your empty pans on our website available individually. So if you ever want to reconfigure your set, you can do that and make your own with two paints that you might have on hand. And then we also are offering kind of like as we make colors that as we're learning more about what of our colors work well in these special super shallow pans, we kind of add a rotating selection on our website of individual paint-filled art toolkit minis and standards. So the minis are the little square ones, and the standards are these guys. So while we, like some of the colors that the new fluorescent orange yellow and the fluorescent red orange, the light blue and dark blue and the green, those we made as special blends just for this set. So those might not come around again until maybe we do a re-release of this palette next year, or we're not really quite sure. But Art Toolkit will have release another second batch at the end of this month. And
Yes,
then
subscribe to our newsletter. I'll tell you all. Yeah, August 29th. So I believe that's a Thursday will be when the re-release will be coming out. And yeah, if anyone's just blogging out, I'll just share what this looks like again. So we chose, I'll say, Alexis, you chose this beautiful blue that's sort of your case for making blue.
yeah.
And we were inspired by this little rainbow with a little matching bag. And then the palette comes with a little bit of a color swatch card and some inspiration, a little bit about us. And then special for this project, we designed, shout out to my sweetheart and partner, Darren Reed, for putting together a sticker sheet. It's the first sticker sheet we've done, and it was so much fun.
It looks so
And
good.
it's a little hard to see maybe on the computer, but we have glitter all over it. And I can't wait to put one of these on my watercolor, on my water bottle. We have the little Rainglow palette and some rainbows, and our names here for just for fun and to help spread a little joy.
Yeah.
Um, and Alexis, do you want to share a little prompt? And we've got some too on our end for some ideas of how to use these colors.
Yeah, well, I was actually on vacation last week with my family, and I brought my art toolkit set that we made of our Land's End colors with me, because now that I've traveled with this Demi set, I'll never travel with anything else. It's just so perfect and tiny, and it doesn't there's no bulk to it at all, so it just feels like the perfect travel companion. So I had a set that I was playing around with while I was traveling, and It's something I started doing when after I graduated from grad school, where I felt so burnt out from trying to have good ideas and like so burnt out of like trying to execute good ideas and defend my ideas to on panels and working on my thesis. I just was like, I just want to paint just to paint. I don't want to paint anything. So I started just painting tally marks. Um, and I think that's what my brain always goes back to anytime I just really need to decompress and explore. I just start painting lines.
Mm.
So last week when I was painting, I sat down and I was like, well, maybe I'll paint plaid and kind of explore like this overlapping of lines and pattern and color and explore just like what that feels like to try to paint a plaid pattern. Uh,
Mm.
and the first one I did, I was chatting with Maria a little bit before we jumped on this, and it's always like sometimes it just feels so hard to get going. And so if you can just allow yourself to just do something really simple, just to do the first idea that pops into your head, it's like paint lines, like anybody can do that. So you do it, you try it, maybe you don't love the result, like that doesn't matter. Like the fact that you just made something matters. Because anything you do kind of has this opportunity to spark a new idea, or another question might come up and be like, well, what would happen if I did this or didn't do this? Like, and then you kind of do a few of that experiment, and then maybe another idea comes up. So I just started making lines where I'd come in from one side of the paper and leave it around the middle, and then get another color and come in. You can flip your paper if you want. Come in from the other side of the paper and meet the lines in the center and just let the colors bleed into each other.
Mm.
Because I feel like I like to catch myself doing things and then challenge myself to do the opposite. Like, for example, if I might tell myself in my head that I want to make a perfect line, so then I'll try to make like a not perfect line and do the same experiment not being perfect. And
Hmm.
maybe I end up liking that. Like I actually do kind of like that line better than the super straight one that's next to it.
I
Or-
love that as an exercise of like pushing your comfort zone. If you've been doing one thing, I do that a lot with
Yeah.
color. If I'm like, gosh, my paints are all looking a little bit too light and washed out, like, I'm not getting enough pigment on my brush. What does the opposite look like? Can I do a
Yeah.
little sketch using like the boldest, brightest colors?
Yeah. I think testing the opposite is a way for for you to like get out of your head. I find that when I'm painting with a friend, and if we sit down and paint the same thing and you look over at your friend's paper and you're like, "Oh my God, I love how you did that. Like I love how you approached it and it's so different than how I might have done it." And that feels so inspiring and so refreshing to see this other perspective. So I kind of like to challenge myself to see what I'm doing automatically, and then what does the opposite look like? Like if I kind of force myself to do the opposite, what does that look like? And do I like it better than what I do without thinking too much about it? Um,
Mm.
yeah, I think it's also kind of a nice way to force yourself to decide what you like based on what you make. Because a lot of times we have these external ideas of what we like, and that feels really different from what we might make really naturally.
Or what
And
we
so this
think we should like. Yeah.
a creative practice can be this process of actually like really learning what you make and working with that to get it to a place where you really like it.
Hmm.
And that's the practice of it. It's like this being really kind to yourself
Yeah.
along the journey, because it can feel really frustrating.
Yeah, I think about that a lot in like developing our artistic kind of our creative voice, and that,
Yeah.
it's so much fun to try new materials and take classes and, get exposed to different approaches or go out sketching with your friends and or an urban sketching group, just to get exposed. And then throughout all that, kind of pay attention to that little part of you that's like, ooh, this is fun.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, exactly.
and to embrace whatever that may be, whether it might be more abstraction or
Yeah,
a certain media, and kind of follow that muse and like make yourself
totally.
uncomfortable, but listen to that little voice that's like, ooh, I like that. And it's
Yeah. Yeah, it's like choosing things to feel easeful and playful. It doesn't I feel like it's not like a cop out. Like
Mhm.
you're still showing up and you're still making things. And there's so much value in that. Um, and it's like through showing up repeatedly, that's where your voice just starts to show itself more and more clearly.
Mhm. Mm. This reminds me, this little approach too, I'll share just for fun. An artist friend of mine taught me what he called the rainbow caterpillar. So you
Ooh,
can start at one end and then just connecting, just like you've been doing lines,
yeah,
but then you can follow that line and attach it. Just to run with your inspiration in a slightly
yeah,
different direction.
just playing.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, I
I
think,
actually really like
I
that.
think about too, Alexis, like that idea of like when to make art also. And I often think about those little moments we can find throughout the day of maybe it's, over, tea or coffee in the morning or waiting, for an appointment. Like it doesn't have to be a big designated space and having
Yeah,
something be easy to
that's so
pull out.
tiny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like this sort of thing is so meditative.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can do so. I mean, how long have we've been painting for like 10 or 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel that so much.
Yeah, but that you sometimes you don't need to have it be a great big amount of time, but just take advantage of those little moments.
And you also don't need a lot of colors. Like we tell people in the shop all the time, like sometimes too many colors can feel overwhelming. So maybe just start with one or two or three.
Oh, well, now I feel like I have to ask you if you have a favorite color.
Oh, I mean, I'm a big fan of blue. I love blue. So I love ultramarine blue. I mean, that was the color the pigment color that I first found that made me like fall in love with pigment and research what to do with it. And that's how I learned that you can make paint from pure pigment. Um,
Mhm.
so ultramarine blue for sure, but our indigo is like that's the color that I reach for over and over again.
I do love indigo.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like a light turquoise, kind of, teal
Uh-huh.
sky, a little bit
Yeah.
of that cooler sky.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
them all.
In this particular palette, the yellow though might have to be like my
Oh, I remember you
one of
saying that early
it's
on.
just
Like,
like so in your face. Like you put it on the paper and it's hard to see on the video, I think, but it just glows.
I liked your color box. Oh my God, this is so classic me. I was like, I thought you were doing a box, and so I just did a box, and then you're doing a spiral box, which looks really cool.
Oh. Well, I thought we could take a couple minutes and share some other prompts with folks. That and um I'll share one that I did in town because it was just so much fun and pushed my personal comfort zone. And that's just
I
the
love that.
idea of painting with like really unrealistic colors. And it might be hard to tell what my little sketch is, but this was standing on a dock in my little town, looking towards the town. And I just played Alexis with like looking at shape
Yeah.
and not much else, and then like the windows. But like it was so fun to be like, oh, that building, that one's gonna be pink. This one,
Yeah.
that's gonna be green, purple, and then like the I think it's the ultramarine blue is like super opaque. And after the colors had dried, I put it on the surface and it just like sits there in this really
Yeah.
delightful way. And then I
I
went
love
in
that.
with like metallics on the roof that are just like sparkly on my page. And it was so much fun because
Yeah.
I've never done something like this. Just be like, here I go.
Yeah, so it's like it's just can feel really freeing to be like all making up your own rules and then
Mm-hmm.
kind of letting yourself be delighted by the results.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and we wanted to offer this like unrealistic color idea. When we were talking before our call, you were mentioning like just go paint out your window.
Yeah, like what's out your window? I have this wild tree out our window, so I'm gonna make like a blue tree and try not to get too bogged down by the actual shape of the tree.
And I like that out the window because you're kind of removing in some ways that like too much decision making around like what do I have to find to paint?
Yeah, exactly. And it always will look a little different because the sky changes and the time of day changes and maybe somebody paints their house or I mean, who knows what's outside your window, but
All right, I'm almost done with my little caterpillar here. Oh, look how your tree is coming together. Oh, is that your favorite blue?
it always, oh, I'm a huge fan of the ultramarine.
Oh, that's so much fun.
It's like a
Um,
big juniper tree. What's outside your window,
oh,
Marina?
outside my window, I've got trees, I've got some buildings, I see some like road signs. Oh, and I mean now you're gonna make me want to draw one. See, I could get something in my from where I sit. Maybe I could paint a cute little lamp. Let me try. All right. Um, and another little prompt that we imagined. Here we go with my little lamp. I'm just going to focus on the shape. I love the wet and wet mixing that these colors can do too. Your
Yeah,
colors, your
it just
pigments are so rich that some of the pigment feels like it kind of sits on the surface, especially the paper I'm using is a little bit of a smooth paper.
yeah, I think it's been so helpful for me to think about and learn about how paint gets made. I think I tended to feel really overwhelmed by color options and color theory and um, how to make like a pleasing color palette. It just felt so big and ambiguous. That once I'm much more of like a physical like material person, which is why I was gravitated to architecture in undergrad. Like the materials are just really a lot easier to understand. This is what concrete feels and looks like and what it does well, and this is what wood does well, and kind of trying to think about that with color felt I just couldn't grasp it until I like found pure pigment and was like, oh, whoa, like color actually has a physicality and um like physical properties. And each color and depending on what type of pigment it is it an earth pigment? Is it a mineral pigment? Is it a synthetic fluorescent pigment? Like the pigment families all have some of the same characteristics, but even within those, each color acts a little bit differently. And so the just getting to know them and getting to know their personalities helped me to understand why colors are and how they exist and where they come from. And it's just allowed me to kind of grasp more what colors I like and why and how I want to use them. And yeah, it's fun. They're their own thing.
Whole new world to dive
Yeah.
into. Yeah, yeah. Oh, look at your tree. You've got some nice wet and wet blending here.
Yeah, letting it do its thing. It's a very foggy day here, but I really want to make a sun.
Creative license.
Yeah.
Um, well, one other little prompt I thought I'd share a little bit of art from our art toolkit team was just like doodling also. And I just thought I'd share this like little page of doodles. And I know there's times when like I might be on the phone or, just kind of those in between moments of having a little time to wait and just playing with a brush and color and finding some of that like meditation and space to just be in my own head not looking at a phone and scrolling, but just to kind of zen out with color as a really lovely thing. And I think doodling is one route to that. And a palette like this sort of invites of like, what does this do? How does this react? Oh, and look at you getting shapes there. So Alexis, tell us a little bit about like what else is going on at Case for Making and how we can best like stay in touch with you and follow you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we September is, it kind of feels like our anniversary month. We didn't actually open until December of 2014, but that was so close to Christmas that we're like, we can't have like an anniversary close to Christmas. So September really feels like a celebratory month for us. So we have some fun things happening. We're going to do a really fun giveaway with an artist friend of ours, Lindsay Stripling, and Legion paper. Um, and we always have like a day of free classes on Zoom that we like to do as like our anniversary party because we can't all physically gather in one space. Like we like to just have a Zoom party, and we have prizes and we do like a, what's it called? Like a quiz. What is the like a
Trivia?
trivia?
Do I
Like all
get
of
a
a sudden
point
that
for
word just
guessing that?
completely dissolved from my head. Like, what is happening? We do fun trivia at our Zoom party hangs, and we have free classes, and it's just really fun, celebratory way, easy way to join us at our table. We have a lot of fun at our paint making table, and we have such an amazing crew of people who work here, and we're all friends and keep track of each other's projects, and like everybody's also a working artist. So you can follow us on Instagram, find out more about that. You can join our newsletters. We have like 2 newsletters that go out a week. We've got online workshops that our team teaches. We have a fabulous person named Melanie who's based in New York who manages all of our online workshops. We have like 15 or so a month that we do. They're just an hour and a half long and on Zoom, and you get the recording if you're not able to join the live session. We've got a really fun new project in the works that we're super excited to tell people about next month. That's kind of creating an online gallery for our community
Hmm.
to show and sell their work, which we're really excited about, sharing more details. But yeah, we're really just here to provide a really cozy and comfortable space for people to re-engage with their creativity, or if you are an artist, a working artist, our online classes are super fun because they teach, like each artist who's teaching teaches their own practice and process. So it's kind of like you get to dip into their brains and their studios and kind of do a project with them and as they think about and work through creative problem solving. And yeah, so follow us on Instagram, Case for Making. We sell all of our products on our website, caseformaking.com, and yeah, have fun on our newsletters. And what am I
Hmm.
forgetting?
Well, we'll make sure that's all linked in our YouTube description. And yeah, why don't we pull up our faces a minute? We can just give a little goodbye to everybody. But
That went
oh
so
my goodness, and I'm
fast.
carried away by your dots, that yellow
I
one
know,
with the orange
I was
center.
really having fun with those. I haven't done that before.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that is lovely. All right, here, let me pull myself up too.
Too. So I have
And
to finish one in there because I was liking how it's bleeding.
um, well, oh my goodness, this time has just
I know
flown
it's totally
by.
flown. I know.
I'm just going to show one more time the whole palette set. It includes the little palette, the bag with matching design, an insert, and then had a little question too that yes, the palette does include the sticker sheet. So we pop that in the package with the palette. And if you're interested in snagging a Rainglow palette while they're available, we're going to be sending out a newsletter announcement on the 29th. So sign up for our newsletter or stay tuned to it if you'd like to snag one of these. And if any of you have one and have been playing, tag us or
Yeah, tag us
on
too.
Instagram. We've got our handles at Art Toolkit. And are you Case for Making?
At Case for Making, yeah.
At Case for Making, and or shoot us an email, hello@Art Toolkit, and share your work. We really love seeing what you create and hearing your questions and ideas and feedback. And just so glad to have you all here.
Yeah,
So
it's really
yeah, and
fun.
thank you, Alexis, for
Oh,
creating
yeah.
such a fun palette with us.
We had a blast. We were definitely had to figure out our production, but once we did, our team got really into it, and we had one person spearheading, like counting and double checking everything, and yeah, we were really excited to get it off to you guys, and you guys have just been so fun and lovely to work with. So
Oh,
we're so
oh.
grateful for that.
Well, such a delay, and I can't wait someday. I'm sure we're going to meet in person. I love
Yeah.
the ways we get to connect. And everyone who joined us today, thank you so much. You are just help make this creative community what it is, of the sharing and helping support each other and inspire each other. So just grateful to each and every one of you for being here and sharing in all this joy. So hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Yay!